Has this ever happened to you? Just sitting around having a conversation and somebody comes up and asks you who you're voting for? Are you happy with the candidate? Or you should be so happy about the candidates? Happened to me. Hello, YouTube's friends and family. I'm Mary.
And I'm Raymond.
And you're rolling with the Revises. Okay, so just like my intro said, I was sitting, or my husband and I were sitting in a restaurant waiting for our food, and we were deep into conversation, and a man comes up to us and, you know, kind of like introduced it. It was a truck stop. Just so you know, it was a truck stop restaurant. So it wasn't like we were, you know, at a sit-down place. We were at a truck stop restaurant waiting for our food, and we're, like I said, we're in deep in conversation, and a man came up to us, saw us that we were in deep conversation, and interjected himself. And he was real nice, so that wasn't even a problem. But then he proceeded to tell me that he has to know that I'm happy, like he knows that I'm happy that Kamala Harris is running for president. So I asked him, why would I be happy that she's running for president? And then he said, I said, is it because she's a black woman or a woman of color? And he's like, hell yeah, like, yeah, because she's a... And then I proceeded to tell him that I don't vote. I'm not a identity I don't go for identity politics. So I'm not going to vote for Kamala because she is a black woman or a woman of color. And then I proceeded to tell him that I'm a Republican. So I wasn't going to vote for Biden, and I'm not going to vote for Kamala. But not because I'm a Republican, because up until the last time I registered to vote, which up until last year, I was a registered Democrat. But the way this last 4 years have gone, or almost 4 years have gone, and looking at the state of the world, I just couldn't, in all consciousness, vote Democrat, because I don't think Biden-Harris did a good job. So I wasn't going to vote for Biden, and I most certainly am not going to vote for Harris.
Can I interject a little bit? So I kind of remember different parts of the conversation that we was having with this gentleman, and I think you gave him a little history lesson as well that he didn't really know about. Democrats versus Republicans. Would you like to talk about that?
Well, I did let him know that actually the Republican Party actually was the party of the blacks, or black people and African American people, prior to the 1960s, when LBJ signed in the social services, so like welfare. So when they incentivized the breaking up of the black family, that's when the paradigm shift from black people mainly being Republican into Democrat, when the whole welfare thing, and they incentivized the breaking up of the black family. So
who did that though? Was they the party?
They were Democrats.
What was the party? Okay.
It was the Democratic Party. LBJ, which is Lyndon B. Johnson, he's the one who signed those social services acts into law, and started that. And there's a famous quote out there that he basically said he was, and to be clear, Lyndon B. Johnson was a racist. He didn't like African Americans. He didn't like black people. But his term was he was going to have us N-words voting Democrat for the next 60 years. And that's exactly what happened. That's what happened. And so with now that I'm a little bit older and learning history and knowing history, I don't want to just fall in line. And I'm not going to say that because I'm Republican now that I will always vote Republican. I'm going to vote our issues. But looking at the Donald Trump's term and now Biden-Harris term, we went through a really tough time during COVID, which a lot of people went through a lot of time, but we went through a specifically hard time because we ended up having 5 extra mouths to feed, which was our grandkids.
Who was in office at that time?
Trump was in office at that time. And at that time, like a lot of people, it was COVID, there was no schools, you had to work from home, which I worked from home, but when it was just my husband and I, we ended up getting our grandchildren. We ended up having to leave our house because it was under renovation, the house that we owned. We had to leave our house because it was under renovation and we couldn't have our 5 grandkids, including at the time, our littlest granddaughter was a year and a half. So we couldn't have the kids in the house because it was a construction zone. So we had to rent a home. And like I said, we had 5 miles to feed from a teenager down to one and a half.
Extra miles aside from
just us. So we became from a family of 2, because our kids are grown, to a family of 7. And we were able to do that. I ended up having to not quit my job because I had all the kids, and I had to take care of all the kids. And my husband was working for Western Express. And what do you call them? The bottom of the...
I call them the bottom of the barrel for
pay.
I'm not saying that it's an all the way bad company, because they gave me the opportunity. That was my first trucking job, so they gave me the opportunity. So I thank them for that.
Right.
But as I was learning the industry, and I'm always learning the industry every day, I found out that they pay the least amount of money. So I was still
one of the least,
yes. I was still able with that income do the things that we needed to do to sustain our family. Right.
So, and not only that, our grandkids thrived during COVID. We thrived during COVID. We were able to feed our grandchildren. And I say this, like, we didn't have any programs. Like, they didn't give us any welfare programs, no food stamps, no cash assistance, nothing. It was strictly on my husband's income. Now, fast forward to today, if the same situation were to arise, there is no way that my husband could just be working and me stay home. We would be bankrupt. We would not be able to afford to feed those children and clothe them and give them Halloween and Christmas and Thanksgiving, and birthdays. We wouldn't have been able to do that because the economy is so bad right now. And this is from just regular people. We're just regular people out here trying to maintain. We wouldn't be able to do that. It would be a strain, to say the least. Like, I would definitely have to work, and then that would have come into the play of daycare. We wouldn't, it would have been a catch-22. I would have had to work to be able to support these kids, and my husband would have to work to support the kids, but we wouldn't have been able to do that because we wouldn't be able to afford daycare and work. So we would have been in a lose-lose situation if it were today. So just looking at how we were doing from 16 to 20 and now from 21, and now we're into 2024. No, just the inflation. Harris doesn't deserve my vote. Biden didn't deserve my vote just based on inflation. Coupled with me now looking at interviews with Harris and what she has to say, she really doesn't say anything. She doesn't say anything. I watched her interview that was 11 minutes on a Philadelphia ABC station, excuse me. And they asked her what she was going to do about the economy, and she went into her debate speech about being a middle class kid and her mom saving up to buy her first house when she was a teenager, and how the people in her neighborhood were dignified people and they loved their lawns. And I'm like, answer the question. Answer the question. Like, what specifically are you going to do? She said something about creating an opportunity economy, but she has no idea, or she doesn't tell you how she's going to do that. So just with listening to her say nothing every time that I've watched her, she doesn't deserve my vote. So I won't be voting for her. And when it comes to Trump, I'm not saying like he's the greatest or the worst. I'm just saying I know what he's done because he's already did it. And honestly, she's in office. This is unprecedented time. She's in office now. She's the vice president. She was the border czar. She doesn't have the end all be all say so with everything, but she's done a terrible job at the border. And I think she's only been to the border like once or twice, and once was for an interview or something like that, something crazy like that. And her flip-flopping on issues, like all of those kind of things adding up, I'm voting Trump. And
let's before we end this video, let's go back to the gentleman that we were speaking to. Remember, the conversation almost ended and we almost walked away because the only reason he can give us that he didn't like Trump was because Trump was now considered a felon. So my wife had to give him another history lesson on how New York State had to really give him a little bit of another history lesson on how New York State created the law to
be able to prosecute
Trump.
Because what the charges were, or the conviction was something that was actually outside of statute of limitations, and they brought it back. The person who actually prosecuted him was pretty high level attorney in the government, and they brought him down. Like, they put him in place to be able to prosecute Trump.
That's a whole
so it was
video.
like, that's like a whole video, and that's just like a whole, like, that was a whole, like, kind of like a kangaroo court thing. And I look at it like, he said, well, you know, my husband was going to stop the conversation right there because he was like, I'm a convicted felon.
Yeah, so he kind of like prejudged me before. He basically didn't know I was a convicted felon, but he literally prejudged me because he didn't know who I really am. So he didn't speak to me or nothing. So he prejudging all convicted felons. And when I told him I was a convicted felon, he tried.
Then he's like, he kind of backpedaled a little bit and was like, well, but I could tell you've been out for a long time. But honestly, when it comes to that kind of thing, like, you never know somebody's background, and you know, so it's kind of like, I was raised like, actually, you don't really have political or religious conversations with strangers because you just don't know where they lie. And you don't know, like, you know, some people can take that to, like, they want to have a fight with you because you're saying something that is against what they, you know, what they believe. But you know, I don't think he meant any harm. He just saw us having a conversation.
He was very respectful, and we did wind up having a good conversation. You know.
And then he had to admit, though. Remember, he had to admit that he's done some stuff, but he just never got caught for. So I'm like, you're no better than it's just like you just did it better than the convicted felon. Like, you know, you've committed crimes you never got caught for, so you actually just did it better than the person who was convicted of a felony.
Yeah.
Like, you're a better criminal.
But
like,
I say all of that to say that he didn't have no real reason as to why he would vote for or leading towards voting for Kamala Harris versus Trump. And there are a lot of people out there that are just saying they're going to vote for a person without...
Based on identity.
Yeah, based on identity. And I don't think you should, I think you should rethink that. That's just my personal opinion. We would like to hear the opinions in the comments, good, bad, or indifferent. Let's go. Let's get the dialogue started.
Right.
I
think that to end this, just to let you know, we want healthy conversation. We don't expect everybody to agree with our point of view. This is our point of view based on our lived experience, and everybody has their own lived experience. But I would challenge you to vote your issues, not your identity, because not you're a black woman or you're a white woman or you're whatever you are out there. Vote what you think matters most to you, and it's gonna help you in the long run, because everybody has a different end game. So what's right for us may not be right for you. What we do may not work for you, so we understand that. But I do challenge you to vote your issues. So whatever they are, vote the candidate that you believe is going to help those issues. And in this particular case, do your research, because both people have been in office. So we have more than enough information to make those decisions. It's not even, for me, it hasn't even been this just this campaign time. They've both been in office. Biden was in office, Trump was already in office. Now it's Harris. She's in office. She's been a senator. She's vice president.
She's been a prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Who we voting for again? Let's let the world know. We voting for Trump. Let's go, Uncle Trump. 2024, Uncle Trump. Let's go. Like, share, and subscribe. Keep rolling.
Bye.